Alright, y'all, so the 2024 season's over. We know this. It's been over for a little over a month-ish, something like that. Who knows, but about a month. So, now that this is over, this is probably this type of video is something you're probably seeing all over YouTube. I haven't seen it done in this way, which is good, because I don't want to be copying other creators, but, we're going to talk about my top 5 players at every position, starting with point guards. Now, you're going to get 5 videos, obviously, point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. I'm not sure if they're going to be like you get them back-to-back days. I'm not sure yet. We'll kind of see what the numbers do, and y'all let me know what y'all would think. Those of y'all that watch this that normally comment, new commenters, go ahead, let me know what y'all think. But, yeah, so my criteria for this list, it includes last season's performance, both regular season and playoffs, for those that made the playoffs. Now, everybody in this list made the playoffs, but there will be some lists coming forward, like, people won't, there will be people on lists going forward, that didn't make the playoffs, so that's why I'm saying regular season and playoffs, but only for those that made it. And the criteria also includes, if I were building my own team, if I'm a GM and I got to build my team from scratch to win a ring ASAP, which players would I pick first? So, with that in mind, everyone just keep that in mind. And this is not really kind of on potential, because potential is one of those things that's never linear, and like, if it was on potential, there would be a guy on this list that would definitely be higher. There'd probably be 2 guys on this list that would be higher, so it's not really on potential, but with guys that were maybe rookies, if there is a rookie on this list or something like that, it will involve, you know what I'm saying, their potential a little bit, but for the rest of these guys, not really. It's mostly about what we've seen from them already. So, number 1, the best point guard in the NBA, in my opinion, Luka Doncic. He's a top 3 player in the league. For most people, to me, he's probably the 3rd best player in the league behind Jokic and Giannis, off the top of my head, I think. So, I might put him above Giannis. I don't know. Giannis's defense just kind of adds that extra layer. But, anyways, he can score whenever, wherever he wants, on whoever's guarding him. It does not matter. You cannot stop this man. He's that good. That's why he's a top 3 player in the NBA to me. He's been a top MVP candidate going into the season for like the last 4 years. And while he hasn't won the award last year, he was my MVP last year. And for most people, he was 2nd or 3rd in their MVP voting. He's a phenomenal passer, phenomenal rebounder. He's offensively dominant. Like, he is literally probably the 2nd or 3rd most offensively dominant player in the league today. The only 2 people I could put above him maybe would be Jokic and Embiid. But like, offensive dominance, that man is Luka. Oh, he's one of the top 3 for sure, for sure. Now, there are some downsides. He can be a high turnover guy. Especially, we saw that in the playoffs a little bit versus a defense as good as Boston's. He can be a high turnover guy. I think in the game 1 or something like that, he had 8 turnovers. I think in multiple games, he had like 5 or 6 plus turnovers. So we've seen that he can be a high turnover guy. But remember, during that series, he was also injured and he was also out of shape, which is another thing that I have as a negative for him. He needs to start taking, kind of like what Jokic did right before they won the championship. You got to start taking that your conditioning more seriously. I think he will do that this offseason. I think playing in the Olympics this offseason will help him with that. Hopefully they can go somewhere with it. But oh wait, no, they got knocked out, didn't they? I think Giannis knocked them out. Well, anyways, that should help him. He played into June, so that automatically is deeper than he's ever played before, so that helps him too. So I think he will take his offensive conditioning more serious this next upcoming year, and I think that's something that will increase his game even more. He can be a streaky shooter from deep. He's a 40% three-point shooter. We know this, but he can be streaky, especially on those catch-and-shoot three-pointers. We know that Luka's a guy that prefers the off-the-dribble threes. Off the top of my head, some players that are kind of like that, like him and Wemby, like they prefer the off-the-dribble threes as opposed to the catch-and-shoot, which is fine, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's probably the best ISO player in basketball. He's the best pick-and-roll player in basketball. We know what Luka Doncic is. He's, to me, a guard version of Jokic. That's the best comp I have for him of anyone else in the league, just a guard version of Jokic. And then he's not a great defender. We all know that. He has far too many defensive lapses. He has far too many times on defense where it looks like he's not even trying, where it looks like he has no care, no attentiveness, no energy on that end. Now, that did get better this season, I think. I think this season he still was a negative on defense, but he was a lot less of a negative on defense, in my opinion, this season. And, of course, his size has helped. His size and his height help him defensively at times when it's needed. But there are still, like I said, too many lapses, even in moments where you'd like to see him play defense. I'm not asking him to lock in, sit in the chair, be a two-way player like Kawhi used to be, you know what I'm saying? But I'd like to see some of those more moments where it's like, okay, can you really sit in the chair? Can you really clamp up for a few possessions to string it together, multiple possessions at the end of a fourth quarter, at the end of an overtime in a game, especially in the playoffs or in the late season where you're fighting for seeding. So that's my number 1. Number 2, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Now, if you had asked me before last season, he definitely would not have been anywhere near this high. But after that season he just had, he proved to all of us that that OKC rebuild is pretty much complete. They made the right decision with trading Paul George to get this guy. This guy he was second in MVP voting last year. To me, he was my third MVP. Phenomenal season last year. He's a phenomenal scorer, very consistent. There was like a streak where he had like 9, 10 straight games with 31 plus points, something like that. It might have even been longer. Like, he's a very consistent scorer, dominant mid-range scorer, can hit threes, can get to the line at will. I mean, one of the best guards in the league at getting to the line. I think probably 3 or 4 of these guys are really, really good at getting to the line. I'd say 3 of these 5 are really, really good at getting to the line. And he's one of them. He's probably the best one. Him and Luka are probably like the best 2 at getting to the line on this league. On this list. Great slasher. We know what he does. Great size, great height. You know what I'm saying? He's a very, very good passer. And while I do think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a good, talented passer, I think he has the ability. The problem with his game is that he doesn't create a lot of easy shots, and that limits his ability to make plays for others. Now, that isn't to any knock really on him for real, because I think this is something that can be improved. He's literally still like 24 years old. I think as his three-pointer improves, especially the off-the-dribble three, I think as that improves, as his isolation ball improves, when he adds that next layer of his game, because he's already he's a decent three-point shooter. He shoots probably like 35, 36% from three. So he's fine, but he doesn't create easy shots. That limits his ability to create for others, and especially come playoff time, we saw this versus Dallas, relying so heavily on that mid-range is very inefficient, and it'll only take you so far. And I think him adding that three-pointer will help him not only create for others, but will make his offensive game easier. Will make it harder for opposing defenses to game plan for the Thunder. In my opinion, I think as that 3 gets better for him, it'll get harder to guard them as a team, and it'll get harder to guard him individually. Now, he's one of the best two-way guards in the league, and I think most people agree with this. He's one of the best two-way guards in the league. He has great steal numbers. He averaged 2 steals last year, which if it didn't lead the league, it was close. And great deflection numbers. I'm pretty sure he led the league in deflections last year, or if not, he was close to it. His length helps him so tremendously defensively, and then he's also got some very, very good strength. And you know what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to do for you offensively, but then the fact that he's not only just a 31-point scorer, the fact that he's also a great two-way defender, that helps you so much, especially on a team with the defense where you have Chet on the back end, you have Lou Dort, you have now Alex Caruso already defending. You have a great defensive team there. Jalen Williams is a pretty good defender, you know what I'm saying? Like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being your MVP player, who's also great with steals. He's gonna average about 0.9 to a block, you know what I'm saying, every season, a game every season. So that's a good thing for him as well. 3 stocks from a guy that's an MVP point guard, an MVP caliber point guard, phenomenal. You can't ask for more than that. Third on my list, Steph, Chef, look at Curry, man. And this is the first year that I don't have Steph in the top 2 in a long time when it comes to point guard. And you could make the argument he could be 4th. I don't think he's 4th, but because the reason I don't think he's 4th isn't because the guy that I have at N4 I think is much worse than him. It's that the championship experience, the championship pedigree, the fact that he is the greatest point guard of all time, in my opinion, adds to that. Hey, if I was building a team right now, I would pick Steph Curry over the guy I have after him. That's why I have him at 3. And the stats given the team that he was playing on, I think those were very good. Best point guard of all time, best shooter of all time. We all know that, but this isn't an all-time list. Right now, let me tell you why I still have him 3rd. Still very productive. He was slightly injured last year throughout the year, but he played through it a lot. Like a lot of people, if you were really watching Warriors games, you know that he was slightly injured, especially that second half of the year after that All-Star break slump. But that All-Star break slump, most people realize that post-All-Star break slump, most people realize that was due to injuries. And then he had no help on his team. He had no other All-Star on his team, and neither did the guy below him. The guy below him did, but that guy was injured for a good chunk of the season. But then one of his main vets in the locker room had his worst year in a long time. Klay Thompson, even though he didn't have a bad year, he definitely didn't have a good year. There's a reason he got let go. He bet on himself. He declined the contract offer. I'm talking about Klay Thompson, in case you're wondering. He declined the contract offer the Warriors gave him at the beginning of last season, and then he bet on himself. The bet didn't pay off, and now he's making less money with the Mavs. He just didn't have a good year last year. And then his other championship vet on that team, the other main one of the big 3, Draymond Green, was missing most of the year due to suspensions, being out there punching people in the face, choking people. Like, it was crazy, the stuff that Draymond was doing, literally to the point where he got ejected in a Magic game, and Steph Curry was crying because it was like 6 seconds into the game or something like that. Like, it was crazy. I don't know if it was actually that soon, but it was like I think it was within 3 minutes, he got 2 techs and was gone, and that was against the Magic in a pivotal game. But the Warriors ended up winning. Steph Curry was over there crying because they're like, "Bro, I'm trying to get us to the 10 seed. I'm trying to get us in the play-in. I'm trying to get us to move up." And this was when the Rockets were still really, really close on their tail for that play-in spot. It was a pivotal game. So when you keep into consideration the stuff that Steph Curry has to deal with, given his team last year, and the fact that his stats were still very, very, very good, I can't really ask for much more than that. We know what his greatness is. His scoring is still as good as it's ever been. He proved yet again to those of y'all that were doubting that he is a phenomenal player in the clutch. They proved that again last year. Now, his assist number, we know Steph Curry's not ever going to be a great defender, but I think he's much more active on that end than a guy like Luka is, just because Steph cares, I think, a lot more about that end. He's seen that it takes caring about that end a lot more frequently to win championships. He knows that, and that's something that Luka didn't know, or at least he didn't until now, I would say. And his assist numbers, Steph's assist numbers did go down a bit last year. I think they went down from like over 6 to somewhere in like the 5.5 range. But his turnover number went down from over 3 to being like 2.7, 2.8 range, right? So given the team he has around him and given the loaded Western Conference that he was in last year, I think the fact that his assist numbers barely went down, but then the fact that his turnover numbers went down with that, I think that's a very good thing, especially given, again, the slump. He wasn't able to get the playmaking he has. You know, he's not even... you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, a lot of times Draymond's going to take a lot of those assists anyways, but, like, so you don't expect Steph to be a guy that's going to average 8, 9 assists. So, but the fact that his numbers barely went down, I don't think is a big deal. And then given the conference he was in, given the team or the lack of a team that was around him, I think that was a phenomenal year for Steph Curry, given the fact that he's also 35 years old. Now, number 4. This is a guy that I think you could argue should be above Steph Curry, and I think some of y'all in the comments will probably think that at this moment he should be above Steph Curry. Jalen Brunson. Now, the reason I have Curry above him, he played in an All-NBA level, which again, so did Brunson, played an MVP level, I realize that. But he had literally no help. I know Brunson's team was injured last year too, but when his team was healthy for that chunk of the season when they were healthy, his team was simply better. And even when his team wasn't fully healthy, his role players were better than Steph Curry's role players were, in my opinion. And Steph was doubled like constantly almost, and he was in a harder conference, so the seeding difference, you know what I'm saying? Like Steph's team was literally like 40 something wins and they were the 10 seed. Like that is insane. Like they might have been like a 48, 47 win team, and I'm pretty sure they were the 48, 47, 46 win team, and they were the 10 seed. That is disgustingly crazy. We can go look at, matter of fact, let's go look at it right now. NBA standing. Let's go see where they were at the 10 seed. Western Conference. The Golden State Warriors were a 46 win team, 56.1% win percentage, and guess what? They were the 10th seed. That is disgusting. On the other hand, the Knicks, 50 wins, 61% win percentage. Wasn't that big of a difference. You know what I'm saying? It's just the conference was way crazier. That's why I still have Steph Curry over Jalen Brunson. But it was still very, very close. And like I said, I'm not mad if you switch them at all. And I want to hear y'all arguments if you think they should be switched. Anyways, Brunson last year proved he's a very, very consistent scorer and that he can carry a team riddled with injuries to a high seed in the Eastern Conference the way it's currently constructed. They have a better team going forward this year. I wouldn't be surprised if his scoring numbers drop a little bit just because there's a little more wealth to go around, especially if they are able to stay healthy. But Jalen Brunson, he's proven that he can be that guy on your team. I'm still not sure if he can be the 1A on a championship team, which is why I have Steph Curry above him, because there's very few small guards that have ever been a 1A on a championship team. But Jalen Brunson proved that if there's anybody in the league right now other than Steph Curry that could be a small guard on a small guard that's a 1A on a championship team, it's him. Now, he's just like Steph, very lacking defensively. I think he's actually a worse defender than Steph. I think him and Luka are probably the 2 worst defenders on this list. Maybe the guy below him is even in that conversation too. But I think by far Shea is the best defender on this list, and then after that, they're all pretty negative defenders. Jalen Brunson, though, he gets to the line, he'll get you like 6 free throw attempts a game, which is good for a small guard, especially because Jalen Brunson is like actually small, like 6 foot 5'11" small. Like I'm pretty sure he's listed at like 6'1". But if you go ask any NBA player, they'll tell you that they're pretty sure he's a good amount smaller than that. He's a good passer, but he's not a great passer. He's a worse rebounder than the guys above him, and even guys like Curry, who are kind of similar to him in size, he's a worse rebounder than them too. He was a focal point defensively for all his opponents, which I think this was probably the first year. Maybe you could say the first year in New York, but I'd say this was probably the first year for sure that he was a focal point defensively for all his opponents, especially when the team was injured, and yet he still increased all of his numbers scoring-wise, and his efficiency was still good. He's a good three-point shooter, not a great one, but he'll shoot 40% from 3, which is good. You need that as a small guard. You need to be able to shoot, and I think the fact that he has such a high usage rate and the fact that he was able to be so durable, because you know Tom Thibodeau was playing that man like 40 minutes a game, and his usage rate was crazy, so the fact that those things were able to happen still, big ups to Jalen Brunson. A lot of guys would have needed some rest, and he didn't. So good for him. Now he got hurt in the playoffs, which you could say that's part of that Tom Thibodeau playing guys a whole bunch of minutes every day. But it's not his fault that he got hurt. The final guy on this list, and I'm going to tell you right now, there were 3 guys that I considered for this list that didn't make it. De'Aaron Fox, Trae Young, and Damian Lillard. They didn't make it. The 5th guy on this list, Tyrese Halliburton. Phenomenal three-point shooter. In the Olympics, I think in the first show-out game against Canada, he proved that he can be a solid defender in passing lanes. He can have some good hands, have some good deflections, get a few steals. He proved that. Now, I still don't think he's a plus defender by any means, but he proved that his defense, he can lock in on that end at times, especially given that role that he's in on Team USA. Now, I get that his role on the Pacers is way, way different. He's the best player on the team. Him and Pascal are supposed to be that dynamic duo. I get the role is different because on Team USA, he's coming off the bench as probably as the second point guard. I get that. I understand it. Maybe third even. I get it. I understand it. So maybe his defense won't be like that in the NBA season, but that's proven to me that he at least has the ability to do that. And I think as the team continues to try to push further and further into the playoffs coming forward. I know they were in the conference finals, but we all know. To me, he's the best passer in the league right now, and if you don't agree, you probably have him no lower than top 3. I don't think you should have him any lower than top 3. I'm pretty sure he led the league in assists last year. Him and Trae Young are probably like the 2 top assist guys in the league normally, and I think he's a better passer, just pure passer than Trae Young is. Because I think the passes he can make are disgusting, bro. Like the passes that Tyrese Halliburton can get off, and part of that is due to his 6'5" frame as opposed to Trae Young's 6'1" frame. I get that, but it's not his fault that he's tall. That is a good thing. It helps him a lot. That also helps him defensively. His size, his length can help him defensively, and that's another reason why I think if he ever needed to really lock in on that end, he definitely could. Now, he doesn't really get to the line a lot, and he's also not a great paint scorer. He's not going to put a lot of pressure on the rim, which makes his game a lot more reliant on shooting, which makes his efficiency numbers go down, which makes him a lot more streaky of a player offensively. That's a bad thing. To me, I felt like there was a lot of times last season where he wasn't as aggressive as I felt he should have been, especially in the playoffs. It felt like there were multiple games, even in the first round versus the Bucks, where he was the 3rd or 4th. He was attempting the 3rd or 4th most shots on his team. That cannot happen when you're the best, or if not the second best, and to me the best player on your team. That cannot happen. If you cannot allow that, Tyrese. Now I get his assist numbers were good in those games, but also in most of those games where he wasn't a top 2, he wasn't attempting the top 2 most shots on his team, they were losing those games. So cool, sure, the assist numbers are cool and everything, but he can do both, and I think if he can continue to score and be aggressive with scoring more consistently, he'll move up on this list even more. Probably the best player in the NBA. Not probably. To me, he is the best player in the NBA at pushing the pace. We saw that with the leader of one of the best scoring offenses of all time last year. And the reason that we're one of the best scoring offenses of all time last year, guess what it was because of? It was simply because of the fact that man can push the pace, and they got people on the team that can run with him. It doesn't matter if he's the one getting the rebound, throwing it down to a big or a wing on the transition. It doesn't matter if he's the one getting the rebound or his big gets the rebound and they pass it to him and he's just dribbling down the court, pushing the pace. He makes the right play more often than not. He's a great assist guy. He's great at pushing the pace. He's one of those young guys in the league right now, one of those young point guards in the league right now, where he can run with anybody. His team can run with anybody, and that makes their that makes their offense just so hard to guard because they're so quick. They get down there and transition so fast for so many free points, and then the fact that he can pull up from 3 from deep anytime he wants to makes it so much more difficult to guard not only him but the team. I think he is one of the, if we're talking about more of a pure point guard type role, I think he's probably among the best in the league, a pure point guard. I think he's one of those stereotypical double-double type point guards where he's going to get you 20 and 10 anytime he wants it. Again, aggression offensively needs to increase. I would like to see him be able to put a little more pressure on the rim. He is 6'5", he should be able to put a little more pressure on the rim, whereas guys like Steph, Kyrie, who is a shooting guard right now, but Steph, Kyrie, these smaller guys can put that pressure on the rim. Even Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Maxey, those guys can put that pressure on the rim. And I think Tyrese Maxey, I'm including him as a 2, but you want to include him as a 1, he would be on this list, but I think I'm going to include Tyrese Maxey as a 2 guard. I'm not sure yet, though. We'll see, but he'll be a 2 guard for me. He'll be on my guard list of 2s probably, but I haven't started that list yet, but we'll see. Anyways, love y'all, appreciate y'all. Hope y'all like the list. Let me know if y'all agree with me. Let me know what y'all would change. But I love y'all, appreciate you. Thank you for watching.